Welcome back. Now, of course, the Education Department has just made note of when schools could be making a return. The preliminary date of May the 6th has been set. And, of course, Parliament there making that statement a moment or two ago. We did follow that discussion live. The Department of Education said to update, as you said, as we saw there, the status of schooling is what that was, of course, during COVID-19. Quite a few concerns, of course, for many parents with regards to this, as well as where exactly we go to from here, what actually happens in this case then as well. As I did say already, of course, that the Department of Education updating on the status of schooling, as I called it. Let's cross live now to my colleague Asanda, who is, of course, in Parliament to give us a sense of where exactly we sit in this regard. Asanda, the phasing in starting from the 6th of May for grade 7s and 12s is the initial start. What happens from here on in? Where, who are next sort of after that?
Well, good day, Arabile, and welcome to Parliament. The Director General of the Department of Basic Education, Mathanzima Mweli, said from the 6th of May, they will start phasing in grade 7 and grade 12. So that's the start of and the end of high school. They'll give it a 2-week period to see how things go. Then they will start with grade 11 and grade 6 on the 20th of May. They'll give that tranche a bit of a chance to settle in. Then they will start with grade 10 to grade 5 on the 3rd of June. The important thing they want to do with that is that they want to put 2 grades at a time, see if the school complies, is able to deal with the numbers, and put in place measures for protection, for social distancing, and one of those things. So they'll go through those to eventually put in grade R by the 15th of July, going back to school. One of the measures that have been put in, though, for phasing in this is that there will now be a limit of a maximum of 40 kids per class. It's a real problem for schools, especially township schools and rural areas where overcrowding has already been a problem outside of the limitation of numbers. So the department says it will now look at adding capacity in terms of mobile classrooms so that they can move kids out of classes to prefab structures to cater for social distancing. There are some schools where you would have a desk that fits 3 children. Only 2 kids will be allowed to sit in there.
Sure.
That now puts the need for additional teachers. The department says it's talking to Treasury, it's making arrangements for additional teaching posts so that when kids are moved to the prefab structures to ease the numbers, there will be teachers in those classes as well.
Yeah.
So those are some of the issues that are being put into place. There are school learners who have pre-existing medical conditions. We know in South Africa there are children who are born already infected with HIV. Some have contracted TB in their communities. Those children will be encouraged to learn from home. The department says the same will apply for teachers that are older, that are close to 60. They will be encouraged to work from home because those two fall into those high-risk categories when it comes to COVID-19. So that will be the phasing in of learning, or rather that's the plan that the Minister of Basic Education is said to be tabling to the National Command Council today as well.
So it becomes very difficult then for the Minister there, Angie Motshekga, in terms of just putting in the right kind of safety precautions as well, right, Asanda, to ensure then that students are safe. Yes, fine, you minimize the number of students at a desk, for example, or you try to create new mobile classrooms, but you still need to have safety precautions, for example, when they meet outside the school in any capacity, whether it be a break or after or before school.
Well, these are some of the safety concerns that the Department of Basic Education is busy dealing with right now. One of the issues is the issue of social distancing in the class. As I mentioned, on desks that take 3, they want to reduce the number to 2. They're saying they're going to provide screening. That screening has to happen before kids can get into classrooms. So they will be providing safety and hygiene packages for schools. They want to have screening for teachers as well. An additional issue is that of scholar transport, because before kids get to school, they need to get into transport.
Yeah.
Some are transported by buses that government has contracted. Others are transported by private taxis that parents contract into. Others are moved by parents. The department wants to ensure that there's safety in there, that buses or taxis are sanitized before each trip, that there are masks provided for children, but also for the drivers that will be commuting between schools and homes, moving kids in there. So there are those concerns. Another issue is, especially for township and rural schools, is the issue of water and sanitation.
Yeah.
The department says 3,500 schools have already requested water tanks to bring water via trucks into the schools, so that when you're talking about washing hands regularly, there is water to do that. It says, the department says it will provide masks for kids to wear masks throughout the day in class, and it will be providing thermometers for their temperature to be taken every day to make sure that the health and safety, not only of the kids, but of the teachers and the people involved in between, is catered for.
Yeah, one can imagine that parents would probably have quite a few concerns in this regard, though.
Yes, the DG of Basic Education, Mathanzima Mweli, said they are aware that parents are worried about the risk of returning kids to classes. Even members of parliament also raised this concern about, will it be safe? Will we not unleash a new spike in infections by sending kids to school at this stage? Some members of parliament were worried about this plan of the Department of Education being made in a rush and not taking care of some of the realities in schools. So there are those concerns. The DG of Basic Education, Mr. Mathanzima Mweli, said they will be ensuring that schools can adhere to the non-negotiables of safety. Where schools are not able to comply, they will not be allowed to reopen or to continue with teaching. So that's a real concern that it's grappling with. In the past, the department has been sued for failing to meet compliance standards. So the DG says this time around, they've roped in lawyers, and they've also asked the school governing bodies to be involved to make sure, in making sure that schools are compliant.
Yeah.
The legal advice will be to ensure that schools are indeed compliant with the measures that have been put up in paper, so that the department is not then later sued for any breaches in safety at schools.
Sure.
So it's trying to work around those things to ensure that there's compliance by the schools, but also there's oversight to ensure that there is that. But at the end of the day, it's still a bigger task between parents and schools and school governing bodies to make sure that learning resumes in a safe environment. One of the concerns that the DG raised was that because the June school exams have had to be missed, they've now been combined with the October-November exams. The department will now have to sit with 1.1 million learners writing at the same time. It's an unprecedented challenge that they have to deal with. So even for the department, there's a lot of new measures and new lessons that it's putting into place as it tries to recover what can be recovered of the schooling year.
Yeah. Becomes very, very difficult, an administrative nightmare, but one that certainly needs to be put through. Asanda Mbetshe, thank you so much for that. Out in Parliament there, giving us an update. The state of schooling in South Africa, it's going to be a very difficult year, whether it be from basic education right through to tertiary. Getting the sense then from basic education that it's going to be very difficult, and they're going to have to add in quite a few measures, whether they be in terms of safety, finances, as well as on the education front, more teachers, more learning facilities. It is going to be very difficult, but certainly the plan is in place, and we certainly hope it can then be put out properly. Let's move